You were about to take your sugary substance, be it an ice cream, a yogurt, a glazed donut, name them. And then suddenly there's this one person who will be like, you shouldn't be taking too much of this. It elevates your blood sugar, it causes diabetes, and goes on with the list. But you don't want to hear that. Normally, we don't want to hear that because taking anything sweet is really sweet. We enjoy the feelings it gives us. And there's actually a scientific explanation for that. The positive feelings we have when we take anything that is too much of sugar is due to release of a chemical substance from our brain known as dopamine, which gives us that nice pleasure. But at the same time, it is potentially contributing to sugar cravings, which makes you keep seeking for it again and again. And cutting off from these substances, more especially in our today's environment, is more or less impossible, because the moment you turn on your data and do the mistake of viewing any lady status, then it is over. Because you just found out that this lady would be making ice cream and yogurt today, tomorrow another lady is making glazed donut and this and this, the following day another lady will be making blah blah blah, all those sugary substances, my sister being one of them. You just can't help it. And I know people that even with their last kobo, they will take it. They will be like, let me just enjoy myself. And why not? Enjoy yourself. To some extent, I do support that. But also the fact about the adverse effect of too much sugar, more especially in the long run, is undeniable. So how do we take that sugary substance that we love in such a way that will be less damaging? Fortunately, there are quite some hacks that when implemented can help. They're actually things we are acquainted with. Now knowing that there are some scientific knowledge behind them would make us prioritize them even more. The first hack is to avoid eating anything that is too much of sugar on an empty stomach. The reason here is that when you do so, it is all that your digestive system has, and as such, it digests it fast and absorbs it fast, which leads to sudden rise in blood sugar, a sudden glucose spike. Our body do not like that. So in order to counter it, it releases yet another chemical substance known as insulin, which helps to store those excess sugar in our body cells, particularly in the liver and the muscles. If you experience this once, it might be okay. But if you are the type that is consistent with taking sugary substance on an empty stomach, you are then consistently exposing your cells to too much of insulin. One thing about this insulin is that it is produced in proportion to the amount of sugar in your blood. So the more sugar in your blood, the more insulin. So when your body gets exposed to too much insulin, the cells might eventually become resistant to it. And insulin resistance is equal to diabetes, particularly diabetes type 2, which is not good. And not just that, sudden rise and fall in glucose spike leads to fatigue, which makes you feel lazy throughout the day when you take a sugary substance on an empty stomach. So on an empty stomach, abstain from eating anything that is too much sugar. It should rather be as a dessert after taking your main food, which is not sugary. So that is the first hack. The second hack are actually some kitchen ingredients that can help in decreasing a sudden glucose spike. The first on my list is cinnamon. I'm sure most of you are familiar with cinnamon. I've known my mother to use it as a tea ingredient, perhaps in other things. So taking cinnamon in tea or other ways possible prior to any sugary substance helps in a number of ways. First is that this cinnamon, the molecules of cinnamon, decreases the potency of digestive enzymes known as amylase, which are responsible for breaking down carbohydrates, sugar being a carbohydrate. This prevents sudden glucose spike. Since digestion becomes slow, it means absorption also becomes slow, so the rise of blood glucose becomes moderate rather than sudden when you do not take cinnamon. The second way is that the molecules of cinnamon mimic insulin, which increase cell sensitivity, our chemical substance that is responsible for storing glucose. The molecules of cinnamon mimics it. So even with little amount of insulin in our blood, our body cells tend to store those excess sugar more efficiently, which is also a good thing against diabetes type 2. The second kitchen ingredient is vinegar. Vinegar, just like cinnamon, decreases the activity of digestive enzymes responsible for breaking down carbohydrates, sugar being a carbohydrate as I mentioned earlier. The biochemistry here suggests that if you take 2 teaspoons of vinegar in a cup of water or tea prior to taking sugary substance, it decreases glucose spike by 20 to 30%, which is very good. The next hack is to take more of fibers in form of vegetables or fruits. Fibers generally give the sense of fullness and also slow down digestion. So when you take fiber prior to sugary substance, it's kind of clogs your sugary substance when you take it, which makes the rise in blood glucose also moderate. If at all you fail to carry out any of these prior to taking sugary substance, there's still one more thing that you can do, which is after taking a sugary substance, which is to have a little bit of exercise. Exercise, not necessarily rigorous, can help decreases the level of glucose in your blood, because there are some physiological evidence that suggests exercise increases insulin sensitivity, which makes your body does not need to produce more insulin for it to store those excess sugar in your body cells, in your liver and muscles. Finally, to wrap up my points, we know too much sugar is not good. It causes fatigue, it causes glycation, which is the aging of organs and skin. People who take too much sugar tends to age faster than people who do not. Everything is normally seen on their skin. It also causes type 2 diabetes. But these are all preventable, so long you can modify your lifestyle. So stick to this point so that in the future, even when you don't know, your body might be grateful that you have. Avoid eating sugary substance on an empty stomach. Cinnamon or vinegar prior to sugary substance. Eat more fibers in form of vegetables or fruits, and then exercise. If you find this content significant, do the honor of liking, following, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you.